Good morning, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to another edition of Breaking News. Today is Saturday, February 22nd, 2025. And like on every Saturday, we're going to look at the week in review. And in doing so, we're going to bring you up to date with the stories we've been looking at all week with what's happening today. So it's the week in review plus the latest stories coming out of Israel and the Middle East, and of course, Russia, United States, etc. All right, in our week in review, we're going to update the various stories we've been looking at all week with respect to the ceasefire hostage release, as well as the situation with the U.S., Russia, and Ukraine. These are the two big stories we've been looking at. All right, headline number one. Shiri Bibas's body has been returned to Israel. Officials assess that she was brutally murdered with her sons in Gaza. This is from the Times of Israel. Recall yesterday that the body Hamas delivered to Israel on Thursday was not that of Shiri Bibas, but of some unknown Palestinian woman. It caused a huge uproar when coupled with the returned bodies of her two young children who were brutally murdered in captivity. Hamas then sent another body to Israel late on Friday, claiming that it was Shiri Bibas. Announcement comes after, this is from the Times of Israel now, announcement comes after Hamas finally delivers bodies overnight, a day after two young sons were determined to have been murdered in cold blood by terrorists in the Strip. Kibbutz near Oz said early Saturday morning that this is where she lived, resident Shiri Bibas was murdered while held captive in Gaza after Hamas handed over her body overnight and was brought to Israel for identification. With pain and deep sorrow, Kibbutz near Oz announces the murder of Shiri Bibas. May her memory be a blessing, who was kidnapped from her home, said a statement from the community, which was one of the most devastated by the Hamas-led terror onslaught on October 7th, 2023. Today, after 16, can you handle this? Believe it? 16 unbearable months. This painful circle has finally been closed for the family, and in the coming days she will return, together with her two small sons, to eternal rest in the soil of Israel, added the Near Oz statement. To sum up, the young mother and her two young sons were brutally murdered by Hamas after only 1 month in activity. Israel will neither forget nor forgive this, and neither should they. All right, so that's our top story. Our second story now, today, six male hostages are back in Israel. This has happened this morning. Another hostage exchange took place today, Saturday, with the last of the living hostages to be released in the first phase of the deal are now set free. Now, there's still a few bodies that have not been released to complete this phase, but all the agreed upon living hostages are now in Israel. This leaves still some 60 hostages in Gaza. How many of them are still alive is completely unknown. So what's going to happen next? Well, that's the great question. That brings us to headline number three. This is from Ynet. Hamas seeks one-time hostage exchange amidst ceasefire talks. Now, this is interesting. The terror group accuses Israel of delaying the second phase talks in an attempt to evade agreement. Hamas demands, here's Hamas's demand, full ceasefire, Israeli withdrawal, and prisoner releases, while Israel insists on Gaza's demilitarization and Hamas's leader's exile. Two very different views of what the future will look like. Hamas announced today, Saturday, it is prepared to complete the second phase of the hostage deal in a single exchange, setting conditions that include a permanent ceasefire, a full Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, and the release of Palestinian prisoners. Their spokesperson reiterated the group's stance, saying, the only path to freeing the hostages is through negotiations and Israel's commitment to the terms of the agreement. The group warned against attempts to evade the deal, accusing Israel of delaying its implementation. As discussions over a potential second phase of the ceasefire and hostage release continue, Israeli officials have outlined their own demands. What are they? Well, we've talked about them before, right? Hamas relinquishing control of Gaza, demilitarization of the territory, exile of the top Hamas leaders, and no transfer of control to the Palestinian Authority. Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer, who was appointed by Prime Minister Netanyahu to lead Israel's negotiating team, has traveled to Miami for talks with the U.S. presidential envoy Steve Witkoff. Witkoff, representing Donald Trump, has been holding shuttle diplomacy talks with Qatar, Egyptian, and Israeli officials in an effort to broker a breakthrough. A senior Israeli official said Witkoff is determined to secure a deal, suggesting he may attempt to impose an agreement on Netanyahu. Let's hope that's not true. and other Israeli officials described the U.S. role in negotiations as highly active, emphasizing that American involvement is crucial in advancing the talks. Netanyahu has instructed Dermer's team to continue discussions with Witkoff, but any progress will require approval from their Security Council. A source familiar with the talks says Netanyahu is playing both sides, preparing for either a return to fighting or a second phase deal. It all depends on what Witkoff delivers. Now, we wonder how long this is going to take. This cannot last, obviously, forever. And this is the big question right now. And so there doesn't seem to be any common ground between the two sides. So it's hard to, in fact, there isn't. So it's hard to see what kind of deal would occur that both sides would accept. Hamas wants, of course, Israel to leave Gaza, and Israel demands that Gaza be demilitarized, Hamas's leadership be broken, and Hamas's leaders be removed from Gaza. And they don't want the situation to ever be able to take place again, like an October 7th style raid from Gaza, and make precautions there, put systems in place that'll keep that from happening. And nothing less will satisfy Israel. So we'll see. Now, again, the big question is who is going to rule Gaza? That's the big question. That's the big unknown. So stay tuned because we've got many different views on what will happen there. All right, an interesting headline number 4. Trump's envoy says Hamas is going to face total annihilation. Now, this is interesting. U.S. President Hostage Affairs point man Adam Bowler calls the terror group's failure to return Shiri Bibas' body horrific and clear violation of the ceasefire. Now, this is before they brought the body overnight. While the Trump administration did not issue an official statement following the revelation of what was believed to be the body of Shiri Bibas, that was a Gazan woman, Bowler, who's President Trump's envoy for hostage affairs, called Hamas's actions horrific and a clear violation of the ceasefire. If I were them, I'd release everybody or they're going to face total annihilation, he warned in an interview with Anderson Cooper on CNN. This sounds more like it. So we'll see what happens. Again, we don't know. There's going to be the attempt for negotiations. We don't know how long that'll last. And it really seems to be fruitless because how can you negotiate with these terrorists and they'll accept nothing less than Israel leaving the Gaza Strip? And that, of course, will never happen unless Hamas is gone and gone for good. And like we said yesterday, many of the Arab countries also want Hamas out of there. It's not good for business in the Middle East and it's not good for anybody. And so we will see what eventually takes place. Now, moving on to the Russia situation. This one's a fascinating story now. This is from the UK Daily Mail from yesterday. It says Zelensky surrenders to Trump and will sign the mineral deal. Donald Trump appears to have won his trade standoff with Vladimir Zelensky as the Ukrainian president is set to give in and sign a deal giving the U.S. access to deposits of critical minerals. The deal was seen as crucial for satisfying Washington's demand for a peace settlement between the Ukraine and Russia to end their 3-year-long war. Zelensky told a nightly video address on Friday that teams of American and Ukrainian negotiators are working on a draft agreement signaling an imminent deal. This is an agreement that can strengthen our relations, and the key is to work out details to ensure its effectiveness, Zelensky said. I look forward to the outcome, a just result. Now, as the UK Daily Mail pointed out, this is a staggering surrender by Zelensky, who just days earlier angrily lashed out at Trump, saying, I can't sell our country. Trump told reporters in the Oval Office on Friday evening, we're signing an agreement, hopefully in the next fairly short period of time. It could be struck as soon as today. People briefed on negotiations told the Wall Street Journal. The exact terms are not clear. However, Trump has been pushing for $500 billion worth of minerals in exchange for continued military support. And this comes, of course, after Zelensky angered Trump so much during negotiations that the president threatened to completely pull the U.S. from Ukraine. This is from Axios reporting. All right, so also Reuters reported that the American negotiators said they may cut Kiev's access to Elon Musk's Starlink, which has been heavily relied upon for civilian and military use if it did not agree to the mineral rights deal. Starlink, of course, is the system, these low-flying satellites that Musk has put into orbit literally around the world, where there is a unique access that they've had there in Ukraine. And if that was cut back, it's hard to see how Ukraine could continue with that cut back without U.S. support. They're already losing, but they would totally be at a loss. So It seems this Trump made him an offer he couldn't refuse. So this is where we're at. Again, this is a huge story. Now, why? There seems now to be an excellent possibility that a deal is in the works. Now, we know that something must eventually happen between Russia and Ukraine, seeing that Russia could not fulfill the predictions of Ezekiel 38:39 and invade Israel with his army bogged down fighting Ukraine. Now, here's a point we really want to emphasize, and we need to listen carefully here. When the fighting will end is unknown, as is when the eventual predicted invasion of Israel led by Russia will occur. Now, realistically, it's not in the near future. Why do we say this? It's going to take some time, of course, for this ceasefire to take place, Russia to lick its wound. Its army has been devastated somewhat. They're not ready to jump into something else, certainly not an invasion of Israel right now, number one. Number two, the invasion of Israel, as we've emphasized many, many times, assumes no U.S. involvement. The leader of Russia, Gog, who puts together this coalition, does not worry for 1 second that anyone will intervene on the side of Israel, which means the U.S. is not a player at that particular time. Just that simple. For whatever reason, we're not a player. He's not afraid of the U.S., whether we've been destroyed, whether we look elsewhere. We have more, like the Far East and China, whether we can't militarily do this. We don't know what the situation will be, but there'll come a time when Russia will invade Israel, along with countries such as Iran, Turkey, we mentioned that, the Sudan, and Libya, and where it looks like Israel, not expecting it, will be destroyed, but God will supernaturally intervene. Now, again, if you think about it, and this is not something that could happen in the very near future. Why? Can you see Donald Trump, the United States, allowing a Russian invasion of Israel to come and take place without doing anything? I don't think so. So things will have to change, and so this is the reality that we face. Now, we don't know what will happen, how soon it'll be, but we have to take a step back and realize that things seemingly will take time here. Now, we have said this over the years when people had said, well, Christ is coming back any moment, coming back soon. Well, he can come back at any moment, but there's certain things, predictions that still remain to be fulfilled in the future that have not taken place yet. Now they're in the process of taking place. This is the key, and this is what we need to realize. The stage is being set miraculously. We'll emphasize again in our book, 25 Signs We're Near the End, which is a free download on our website, Educating Our World. We list at least 70 specific predictions within these 25 signs, 70 specific details given in these 25 signs of what the end will look like that have already been fulfilled. Another 30 are in the process of being fulfilled. So it's going to happen. It is going to happen. But as far as the timing is concerned, we need to take a step back and realize we don't know when it will happen. And certain events still need to take place. Libya needs to be able to raise an army, etc., etc. So let's understand we're fighting a spiritual battle. Our main goal is to be preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ, teaching the Bible to the world. When the Lord comes back, it's up to him. When he comes for us, it's up to him. And so let's have a realistic view of this. Let's be salt and light. Let's be excited about the great days, exciting days we live in. But then again, let's understand that this may not happen overnight. And that's okay, because we've got a job to do for God in the meantime. All right, so tomorrow is our Sunday message. I don't want to stop doing this because a lot of people are loving it. I'm getting a lot of good feedback on the Sunday when we do a Bible message. So we'll do that. But also, so many things are happening. I will probably do a special edition of breaking news on Sunday, also seeing all the events that are taking place. So we'll keep an eye on that. Well, again, we're very flexible here, and we can do whatever we want because we got the studio right here, right? All right. So anyway, lots going on. It's amazing how it's all setting up to set the stage for what the Lord has said is going to happen in our world. So be of good cheer and continue to pray for everything and continue to, again, tell everybody about the truthfulness of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the one way to get to the one God. I'm Don Stewart. Thanks for watching. Until next time, as always, may the Lord richly, richly bless.